let's bring in the Director of Recruiting, Steve Wiltfong, to give us all the info and intel from the weekend. First things first, though, Steve, you put in crystal balls to Texas for Anthony Hill, Jelani McDonald, and Colton Vasek. A lot of momentum surrounding the Longhorns right now. What's going on in Austin?
Well, when I look at the Texas football program and kind of see the way Tennessee came out and played this year, why can't that be the Texas Longhorns next year? Top 5 recruiting class a cycle ago, sitting at number 7 right now, certainly on pace for another top 5 recruiting class again this cycle. And those are guys that I think would be program changers on the defensive side of the ball. Anthony Hill is a guy that I like the Longhorns for. A source recently told me, hey, keep an eye out for this one on the last day of the recruiting cycle here. But obviously, this thing has accelerated. And I could see him having a Harold Perkins type impact in Austin that Perkins is having in Baton Rouge for LSU. Colton Vasek, one of the best pass rushers in the state, 11 sacks in 10 games for Austin Westlake. Put him on the same defense with a guy like Dylan Spencer, who's having a terrific senior year. And those are impact players on the front for Texas. And then Jelani McDonald, one of the most explosive athletes in the state of Texas as well. A recent decommitment from Oklahoma State. I like the way that one's trending for Texas. Expected on an unofficial this weekend for what's going to be a loaded crop of visitors in Austin as they take on undefeated TCU. And then I think he'll be back later in the cycle for an official visit.
All right, let's go back to this past weekend. The 3rd and 6th ranked edge rushers in the 2023 class were in Athens on Saturday. You currently have a crystal ball for Samuel Mpemba to Georgia, but still a tight battle for Damon Wilson. How likely are the Dogs to land both blue chip pass rushers?
Well, they got a great shot to land both. As you said, I really love their chances with Samuel Mpemba. I think he'll eventually be in the fold for Georgia. Kirby Smart and company. And then Coach Chid and that Georgia staff have done a great job with Damon Wilson as well. I think that Ohio State's still very much in the mix of that one, too. That one's been a back and forth recruitment for quite some time now. Wilson and his family told me, hey, we got a 48-hour rule coming out of a visit. Got home on Sunday from what was a great trip. Certainly a lot of momentum around Georgia, the opportunity to play in the SEC, the way that the Bulldogs develop their defensive players, the relationship he has with Coach Chid, Kirby Smart, and getting around the players again and seeing how he fits in, I think all benefited Georgia, but Ohio State not going away for him as well.
Steve, we're waiting for you to break out the spatula. I know it's spatula season. You haven't broken it out yet, though, but Alabama commits Justice Haynes and Caleb Downs, the number 1 safety in this 2023 class, were in Athens to check out Georgia. Are you on spatula season watch for those two?
Well, I think that with Justice Haynes, I think that Georgia is a school to monitor with his process moving forward. And then with Caleb Downs, I think that even though he took that visit to Georgia over the weekend, Alabama would be more worried about Ohio State and the Buckeyes, who continue to push for him as well. The spatula is still in the holster, but one where certainly monitoring where things stand with both of those 5 stars.
Excited to see that spatula in action soon. Well, as for Desmond Ricks, the number 3 corner in the class, you crystal balled him to LSU on Saturday. He was in Death Valley. He saw the Tigers take down the Tide. What'd you hear about his visit?
Well, I lost track of how many crystal balls I put in for LSU over the weekend. Number 4 class in 2023. They have the number 3 class in 2024 and have a lot of momentum with prospects in both of those cycles. But Desmond Ricks, the 5-star cornerback from IMG Academy, making his 3rd visit to LSU. Look, they got there in tailgate. I heard this tailgate was epic with blue chip recruits and off-field staffers just getting a chance to hang out and rub elbows. Everybody had a great time before the game there in Death Valley. Obviously, you saw an awesome game there where LSU was able to knock off Alabama, and they go from program on the rise to championship contender, similar to what we saw with Tennessee earlier against the same opponent. And with LSU, I think another thing that has put them in great position with Desmond Ricks outside of his relationship with Jordan Arcement and Coach Steeples and company there is that the opportunity to play early is there. When you look at LSU's depth chart and what they're playing with in the secondary, all those guys are going to be gone. And there's going to be incredible opportunity for this true freshman class to come in and make an impact on the back end. And I think that's an important part of Desmond Ricks' recruitment as well, and why I think they're in a good spot for him. And why I also think they're in a good spot for top 247 cornerback Javian Toviano, who also visited over the weekend. He's expected at Texas for the first time since I think January this weekend, but LSU having all the momentum with Toviano as well.
Yeah, you said you lost track on the crystal balls. You do have a crystal ball for Javian Toviano to LSU. Is it a battle between Texas and LSU right now for that talented prospect?
Well, I think maybe we'll be able to gauge where Texas is coming out of this weekend visit. A&M's another school that's been mentioned there. Michigan got an official visit, but I don't really know who the competition is because I just really love LSU's position for him, Blair. I think that they are clearly the one to beat. But hey, recruiting is surprised before, so we'll see what happens with this young man as he ultimately makes his decision. But LSU pushing the right buttons with him and several others as they build up that program with Brian Kelly's recruits.
Something about beating Alabama. It helps on the recruiting trail. Well, we were treated to three field stormings this weekend. That was one of them. Let's go to another one in South Bend. 3-star wide receiver Caleb Smith was treated to an epic atmosphere. And Steve, he just decommitted from Texas Tech on Friday, and now you have a crystal ball in for him to Notre Dame. What's changed for him in his recruitment?
And he told me during his visit he was going to come out of the visit, take his time, and compare Notre Dame to Texas Tech. So I think he still really likes Texas Tech. But Notre Dame's obviously an opportunity for him to go and compete on the biggest stage in college football and compete for national championships. Notre Dame's a program that made the college football playoff 2 times in the last 5 years. This is a recruiting class where, Notre Dame, they're trying to add more playmakers, and this is a kid that can be dynamic. I love Notre Dame's receivers class. They want one more. I think it's trending well for him. And I also logged a crystal ball for safety Khalil Barnes, who also visited over the weekend. My pick was on Clemson. Now it's on Notre Dame. So Notre Dame, they have the nation's number 3 class. Maybe add Caleb Smith and Khalil Barnes to that by the early signing period.
Yeah, top 5 class for the Irish. They did battle on the field. What do you think is setting apart the Irish for Khalil Barnes?
Well, he told me he just really felt like he fit in on campus there. It's a special place, and what an evening there, right? You go there, it's a night game. The crowd was juiced up. It's a historic place, and I think he really felt like he fit in with the culture on campus. Coming into the visit, he told me he already had a great relationship with Coach Freeman and the staff, just wanted to get up there and see how he felt within that atmosphere. And I think he loved the environment, and Notre Dame has moved into the driver's seat. Now, we'll see if that wears off, and maybe Clemson can flip it back. We've had that back and forth with Ohio State and Georgia for Damon Wilson. Maybe we have some back and forth here with Notre Dame and Clemson for Khalil Barnes. But as of right now, Blair, I like Notre Dame.
I just love when these recruiting battles play out on the field.
It
makes it extra special. You don't? Okay.
I don't like the back and forth. I like one leader all the way in.
It does make your job a little bit easier, but it makes our job a lot more fun asking you all these questions. Let's go to 4-star safety Jamel Johnson. He visited TCU over the weekend for its win over Texas Tech. Johnson decommitted from Texas on Monday. You've got a crystal ball in for Ole Miss. What's the latest on his recruitment?
Again, and these crystal balls subject to change, but I think he took an official visit to Ole Miss earlier in the fall for the Rebels' victory over Kentucky. Had a really good time talking to a source around Jamel. They told me that Ole Miss is the current leader in the clubhouse, but taking a visit to TCU over the weekend, the Horned Frogs have a ton of momentum. They're looking for their first top 25 class in a few years. This is a young man that they're pushing for, and I don't rule them out for anybody. And you want to talk about spatula season, TCU, I think they're working on a couple big high-profile flips behind the scenes, so they may be a program that we're talking about quite a bit over the next few weeks with some of the guys that they're quietly in on the first year of the Sonny Dykes era.
Steve, speaking of high profile, the number 3 safety in the 2024 class, Tylen Singleton, was also at TCU. How much momentum is that staff getting with the on-field results with some of the younger classes?
Well, I think it's resonating, obviously, but another thing that TCU is doing a great job of is just building genuine relationships with their top targets. They have one of the best off-field recruiting staffs in college football there with guys like Brian Carrington and Eron Hodges in there building strong reports with these young men. And these are guys that are coming to campus and seeing the vision immediately. TCU, they haven't been undefeated this long, Emily, since they went to the Rose Bowl, right? So it's been quite a while since TCU has had this kind of season, and with the genuine relationships that their staff is building in addition to the play on the field, it's certainly resonating with prospects. They got 3 games to go. Huge opportunity for them in Austin. We talk about Texas and the program that they're building right now, and I love the way that Texas is recruiting dynamic receivers, obviously elite quarterbacks, putting together some of the best offensive line recruiting over the last 2 cycles, and this class is stocked full of great DBs and difference makers on defense after a terrific front 7 class last year. TCU, they're quietly putting it together in their own way and could be maybe the next juggernaut in the Big 12 with Oklahoma and Texas moving on to the SEC.
Whew, if Horned Frog fans weren't already happy watching the team play, they're certainly happy to hear you say that.